It's time for
DodgerHeads.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeland hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Bruce Kuntz. I have good news, Bruce. The Dodgers did not lose today, so this might feel like a somewhat rare occurrence of late. But the good news, off day, everybody just gets to take a deep breath, relax. And we know we're going to talk divisional lead here in just a second, but today hasn't been a terrible day. We've got that going for us.
Yeah, that deep breath is needed with this recent stretch in these last few games. There's been a lot of frustration, so at least today we can just talk about the frustration and then not add to the pile.
Absolutely. We are going to do mostly a mailbag question. So normally we save the last 10, 15 minutes for questions. Today it'll probably be like the last 30 to 45 minutes. So stay tuned to that. We've got 5 topics I want to hit before we get there. But we want to shout out and say welcome to everybody who's joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, those listening via podcast, Apple, Spotify, and Google. Thank you for being with us on a Thursday night, as always. We're going to talk Ohtani. We're going to talk an interesting Mookie Betts story. We're going to talk about an outfielder that you may not have heard of who is set to make potentially his major league debut in the next few days. And again, as well as answer some questions. But let's start our 5-pack of questions here, Bruce, with the biggest, most important story, which is a gentleman by the name of Shohei Ohtani. I'm not sure if anybody noticed he pitched yesterday, he hit yesterday, and he did both of those things incredibly, incredibly well. And seemed, Bruce, at least a little to put to rest this narrative that like the pitching is going to completely destroy the hitting. What did you make of what you saw from Ohtani yesterday?
Yeah, I hope that that'll put that narrative to rest, because it really shouldn't have been a narrative in the first place, because he's proven he can do both at a very high level before. But yesterday was the trademark Shohei Ohtani game. It was the one that we've seen since he was on the Angels, and you look at it and you say, this guy is the greatest man to ever touch a baseball. And it was one of those kind of games. He hit a big home run. He looks absolutely excellent on the mound, which I think is the big story here. Like, I have trust that Ohtani is going to be the hitter that he is, the MVP caliber offensive contributor, no matter what. And then he's looked so good on the mound, and yesterday was probably the best. So that's the part that I really focused in on.
Yeah, there is a stat out there, and Fabian Ardaya was the one. He wrote the article. I saw this one in, not that it's unique to him, but since June 1st, when Ohtani really started ramping up his pitching, his OPS has gone from 1.062 to 896. So the two things that jump out to me, one, 896 is still a very good OPS for most major league hitters, maybe not for Shohei Ohtani. But, Bruce, there is a drop of 160 points between those two numbers. And so is this just a coincidentally timed slump for Shohei Ohtani in your mind? Or might there actually be something here to, hey, it's not going to make him a terrible hitter, but it is impacting him a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not totally worried about those two things. I don't think that they're necessarily tied. We've seen the entire Dodger offense has struggled, and it's not just been unique to Shohei Ohtani. So, you know, just because those things may look like they've happened at the same time doesn't mean that they have to be linked. And if there was a reason to believe that, I would imagine the organization would be like all over it. If Shohei Ohtani felt like, hey, I'm not in rhythm, or I don't have enough time, or my body doesn't feel right, if he felt any of those things, then he would let the Dodgers know, and they'd like take action immediately. So the fact that none of those things have happened just tells me that he's been in a little bit of a rut. Every single hitter goes through them. And just because it may sort of overline with when he started pitching doesn't mean that that has to be the reason.
Yeah, and the pitching, as you mentioned, 8 strikeouts in 4 innings. He also had a 2-run home run, so he left with the lead 2-1 because he had hit the home run and struck out 8. Fastball was over 100 miles an hour a number of times. So it's a reminder, I think, Bruce, and I keep saying this as a guy who did not follow the Angels super closely. I do still think there are some Dodger fans out there. I would not put myself in this category anymore, but I think there's lots of people that are constantly surprised by just how good of a pitcher Shohei Ohtani is, because we saw how incredible he is as a hitter. And for him to be an unbelievable once-in-a-generation athlete, he actually doesn't even need to be a superstar pitcher. The fact that he just pitches at all and pitches decently would make him unbelievable. So it's easy to forget that, no, wait, hold on a second. He actually is also potentially one of the 5 to 10 best pitchers that the sport has to offer as well. And again, last night, 8 strikeouts in 4 innings, struck out the side in the 4th, was exhibit A for anybody that is still doubting that.
Yeah, it's kind of brain breaking, right? Like when you just think about it in a vacuum, it's hard to imagine when we've just seen Shohei Ohtani win the MVP last year, go 50-50 for the first time ever. Your brain struggles to comprehend the idea that he could also be that good on the pitching side of things, but he's really proving it. That game yesterday, he was in total control. The 2 hits that went onto his line were not real hits that he surrendered. The first one was a pop-up that got lost in the sun, and the second one was a bunt single. All credit, to the Cardinals for scraping across a run off of him, but those weren't the kind of hits that you're worried about at all. And he was in total control of the start, from start to finish. The command was there. The stuff was absolutely there. You said he was hitting triple digits with ease. The breaking balls all looked great. I mean, he just looked like an ace yesterday. And when he was on the mound, it didn't look like he was able to be touched.
One interesting thing that we got from Dave Roberts post-game was he was asked, basically, is Ohtani going to be built up beyond 5 innings? This is what Dave Roberts said, quote, "We don't need him to. I think that it's possible. I'm not saying it's unlikely. I think the 5-inning threshold is something that we feel can get you through a game and use relievers. So you're still weighing the fact of the cost of getting him more beyond that, right? So I think that the 5-inning threshold, we're very comfortable with now. Going forward, we'll see if that changes. But I think for sure the next few turns, I don't see him getting beyond 5. I mean, I feel very confident in that. Ohtani, of course, has not gotten to 5 yet. He finished at 4 innings and was removed yesterday. But I'm curious your thoughts on the fact that Dave Roberts basically says we don't have any plans for him to go beyond 5. Now, maybe the playoffs is a different story. Who knows? But at least for the regular season, are you okay with them saying he's a 5-inning pitcher max?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. And this is honestly what I expected, because when we're talking about the link between Ohtani potentially struggling as a hitter when he's pitching, I don't think that we're at that point yet because he's not pitching enough. But when you ask a guy to go into the 6th and 7th innings, those are the kind of starts that really weigh on your body. So asking Ohtani to do that really isn't necessary. When you're talking about like 3-4 inning starts, that doesn't really fit into a regular rotation and could mess up the bullpen scheduling a little bit. They've been having to pair piggyback with him pretty much every start. Once he gets to 5 innings, you kind of don't have to do that anymore. You can treat it like a regular start day, build it into the regular pitching schedule. And that's all you really need to ask for out of him. If that allows him to go out, pitch like he did yesterday, and then still be the MVP hitter, that kind of feels like the perfect balance and the perfect medium where you'd want him to be.
Totally. It's also worth pointing out, he was asked after the game about how he's kind of feeling post-cramping. And he said, I'm thinking of adjusting how I work out or do my work in between outings, especially now that I'm going to be throwing more innings. That's something to consider with the training staff. So again, he comes out of cramping, looks dominant. No need to be concerned about a potential injury, Dodgers fans. And again, hit a 2-run homer in the game as well. Let's go to topic number 2. Actually, excuse me. We got a couple super chats. So let's pause and get to those before we move on. Baseball Geek 79, a $10 super chat. We appreciate it right off the top. Thank you, Baseball Geek. Said, love the shows. Explain the organization's decision to promote an outfielder to Great Lakes where there already is an abundance of high-ranking prospects. Why haven't Hope, DePaula, or Sirota been promoted yet? This question is very clearly not intended for me, but for the gentleman next to me. So, Bruce, what are the Dodgers doing with their minor league outfielders? Because they just promoted a guy, I believe, today to Great Lakes, right?
Yeah, Samuel Munoz got moved up to Great Lakes, and really I think that it's a decision that has to do with Munoz mostly. He can play some first base if they need to rotate him in there, but he's been in Rancho Cucamonga for a year and a half and has looked solid there this year. Like, it's just time to move him up. The timeline reached that point, and Rancho Cucamonga also has a lot of guys now that are kind of forcing players up to depth chart. The main thing with the abundance of the prospects in Great Lakes already, Jose DePaula and Sirota are both on the injured list right now, so they can't move up to Tulsa yet. So it's not quite as crowded as it feels, just knowing all those guys are on the roster when DePaula and Sirota are both on the IL. That said, with Quintero, with Hope, with DePaula, with Sirota, if those last 2 guys get activated, then you're going to have to do something because not everybody will fit. So we don't really know what the timeline is on Jose DePaula or Mike Sirota. That kind of is important information here to really have a total idea of what's going on. But really, they're just making sure that Samuel Munoz stays on his progression, and you can just, make the defense work.
Any concern with the DePaula or Sirota injuries?
Yeah, it's hard to, there's always concern when you don't know, at least for me, when a guy goes on the injured list. I believe I was watching the game when Sirota got hurt. It was a slide into second base, and he limped his way off the field. It didn't look great, so there was certainly concern for me there. I haven't seen exactly what is up with DePaula, so there's always going to be concern until we know that it's not a serious or long-term injury. And the tough thing with the minor leagues, oftentimes there really isn't any information out about the injuries until you see the guy get activated. So you just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Thanks for the super chat, Baseball Geek. Shelly's got one as well. What are the chances Mookie playing a position other than shortstop? Do you see that happening? And are we overprotecting our players? I'll just say from the top, I see this a ton on social media, and I just want to make this abundantly clear as a guy who loves Mookie Betts. He's not a very good right fielder anymore. Like all of these people clamoring for him to go back to right field as if it's like a slam dunk that he's going to still be a Gold Glove guy there and that it's going to fix all of his offensive problems. Like in as respectful of language as I possibly can, it is just not reality. I'm not telling you he's a great hitter. I'm not telling you that he's a great defensive shortstop. I'm not telling you that shortstop is his best position. All I'm saying is right field is most definitely not his best position. And he is not, would he be an upgrade over Teoscar Hernandez? Probably. Maybe not healthy Teoscar Hernandez now that we've seen it. But we're not talking about a good outfielder defensively in Mookie Betts in right field. So to me, Bruce, the question here is, do you see Mookie Betts playing second base? Because I think you could make a case that maybe that's where he belongs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that second base isn't impossible. I was ready to say the same thing you just said, that right field is not in the cards. I think the move into the dirt has had just as much to do with roster construction and Mookie wanting to play infield as it has with the organization, just looking at his declining sprint speed and athleticism and just knowing that he's not going to be very good in right field anymore. So the best spot is to put him in the dirt where his instincts and that kind of thing can really play better versus in the outfield where you're really having to rely on that like overall quickness to be able to track down balls and everything. So Mookie's not going to play right field. I think the only way that he moves to second base is if somebody like Alex Freeland continues to play so well that there's just no way to put him on the bench. And if they, look inward and just decide that maybe to switch things up, Mookie playing second base will take a little bit off his body and maybe help him find a rhythm offensively. We haven't heard any sort of chatter out of the Dodger camp that suggests that Mookie playing shortstop is linked to the offensive struggles this year at all. So that would have to be something that's new for them to decide that, or maybe just to switch things up and try and get him right. But I don't think that it's particularly likely because he's settled into a groove and he's been solid at shortstop. So there's not really a pressing need to change that.
Yeah, and I just I want to point out as well, Mookie is the team's best option at shortstop right now. Maybe if somebody wants to argue that Tommy Edman at shortstop and Mookie Betts at second, fine. But Tommy Edman has been hurt for like the last 2 or 3 months. And Mookie Betts has been, I would say, good at shortstop. Probably not great, but he has not been bad there either. And so however you believe he ended up at shortstop, like if he bullied his way there as if it was like, I'm a diva and I'm playing short and nobody's telling me otherwise, like the roster is constructed in a way where they need him to play shortstop. And I don't think anybody saw him being this competent at shortstop defensively this year. I jokingly, bold prediction, said Mookie Betts would be a Gold Glove finalist at shortstop and like immediately asterisked it with, hey, this isn't a real award and it'll probably be on reputation alone if he gets there. But I think Mookie Betts has been impressive at shortstop. If somebody wants to tell me, hey, he's going to be better at second base than he is at shortstop, fine. I just don't think with the roster construction that we currently have, it makes any sense to move him there this year. Now, a year from now, Alex Freeland, we're going to talk about him in just a second. But like next year, free agency, Alex Freeland, you want to make that move, then we can talk. But they do have Tommy Edman locked up for a little while. So they'd have to shuffle some pieces around. And I don't know if Edman in center field, as he gets older, and apparently has some ankle problems this year, like that may not make a ton of sense. So I'm rambling, but there's a lot of moving pieces.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think Mookie Betts isn't going to be the Dodger shortstop in 3 years. But when we're talking about the down the stretch of this season specifically, like you said, they built the roster around Mookie Betts being the shortstop. And that it's kind of different from last year where he moved there in spring training and it was sort of a surprise This year they went into the offseason, they went through the entire offseason with the expectation that Mookie Betts was the shortstop. And so that's why I say like the only real in-house option that could really play shortstop other than Mookie is Alex Freeland. And he's still a rookie. He's looked really good to start his big league career, but are you really going to stick a rookie at shortstop and assume he's the everyday guy and that you're going to have to rely on it? He fits the roster better rotating in second base, third base, maybe even a little bit of shortstop if it's needed. But really, Mookie is the guy at shortstop, and I don't see that changing.
I love, by the way, somebody in the comments saying I'm a coward who won't own his takes. If there's anything I've ever been accused of, I think it's not giving up my takes more quickly enough. You know, anybody who's been in here, I think it's safe to say I own my takes, good, bad, or ugly. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's talk Alex Freeland because he's in my 5-pack of questions that I wanted to ask you. Are you buying or selling what you've seen from Alex Freeland so far? He's currently hitting 286, a 350 on-base percentage, and a 286 slugging percentage. All of his hits have been singles so far. Are you buying or selling this production as sustainable? Because I've seen some folks kind of penciling him in. We got a lot of questions last time. Like, is this a guy that's going to make the playoff roster? Is he going to be able to keep this up? So buying or selling what you've seen?
I think I'm buying that he's going to be a productive player and that he could, be a rosterable kind of guy moving forward the rest of the year. I don't think that the production is going to look exactly like what it's looked like so far. He's not going to bat 286 the rest of the year, but he also doesn't have an extra base hit yet. So those two things will kind of even out. He's also got the kind of advanced approach that really plays, and I've been impressed with that part of his game so far since he got called up. The patience is still there. Dalton Rushing early on had that same kind of approach in the minor leagues, and then when he got up here, there was some issues with adjusting and being too passive and then being too aggressive. Freeland hasn't really looked like that's been a problem so far. Obviously could become one, but at this point, I think that part has been good. And that sort of advanced approach really elevates the floor in the big leagues. And that's exactly what I think he can do. The glove is good. It's looked good at third base, second base. Obviously the error was made yesterday, but we'll get to that. But you can pencil him into third base and second base and feel good about it. So he certainly, I think, has a chance to make the postseason roster if the bat stays where it's at.
Freeland's an interesting one because eye test wise, I watch Alex Freeland play and I like it. And I would say the eye test kind of lines up with the scouting report, which is helpful. The scouting report on him was never, hey, 25 home runs, smashing the ball over outfielders' heads. It's like bat control, on base percentage, solid defense, kind of a high floor, not a high ceiling guy, right? But the concern for me is once you get slightly beneath the surface on what he has done so far, it's actually pretty ugly. And it would suggest that there's a lot of luck. Now, it's a small sample size, so I would tell anybody not to overreact, to buy in, or to sell completely. But based on underlying metrics, I would say I'm more concerned having looked at these numbers than I was beforehand. So he has a batting average on balls in play of 462. So far this season. That's not sustainable. If that's a league average number, he's probably got a batting average that starts with a 1. He's striking out 35% of the time, to be expected, I would say, for a guy making his major league debut. The walk rate is concerning, 4.3% walk rate. That's 11% worse than the last 2 seasons. Again, major league pitching, minor league pitching, none of these numbers should surprise you, but they're concerning. And then more numbers like the exit velocities have been really good. Average EV is actually 92 miles an hour, which is like an upper 20 to 25% number. His barrel rate, though, expected stuff, whiff rate, strikeout rate, walk rate, all of those are like very, very bad towards the bottom of the league. And so that to me is the concern, Bruce. Not long term. I think he's going to be fine. But in the short term, yes, the surface level 286 batting average number looks good. But there's a reason he's an 86 weighted runs created plus guy who has no extra base hits and seems to have gotten very fortunate so far in his major league career.
Yeah, the good thing is a lot of those numbers you just read that have not looked good are particularly variable when you're looking at a very short sample size like this. Like something like the walk rate being that low, that it's not going to stay there. And having watched his at-bats, I think that the process is right. And that's the thing that I've been impressed with so far. The process looks good. He looks like a big leaguer. Like he hasn't looked like he's trying to catch up to a game that's playing faster than he knows how to play or anything like that. He looks comfortable, and I think the process has been solid. The ball's been getting hit hard, and the approach has looked the same. So those are the things that I've really honed in on. And like I said, I think that he's not going to be a guy who's going to, be a 130 weighted runs created plus. He's not going to be, producing at an all-star level all of a sudden and put himself in the rookie of the year talks with 2 months in the season. But when you look at like the depth of the roster, Kike Hernandez We're not sure if he's going to be back this year. Miguel Rojas is always kind of a up in the air sort of thing. And he's the kind of depth that if anybody gets hurt or if he just continues to play really well, he should be in the conversation for the playoff roster.
Totally agree. And again, I'm not overreacting to 21 at bats. I think there's context to what we see above the surface and what seems to be happening below. And it's just something to monitor. Like just because his batting average is a certain number in 2 weeks, if the underlying metrics are saying something that's the opposite, it's just something to monitor there. We've got some more super chats here. So let's go to those really quickly here. Wedgius says, first super chat, appreciate you all at Dodger Blue. Which is more taxing for a pitcher, more innings or more pitches? I.e., if Shohei post-rehab makes it through 5 innings with 60-ish pitches, then why not go into the 6th inning? I think this is an interesting question, Bruce. Which do you think is more taxing, pitches or innings?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that you're somewhere in the middle. It's obviously not a simple answer, but the going up and down, going into the dugout, having to sit down, go back out, warm up, that certainly means a lot. So like when you talk about 5 innings, 60 pitches, it sounds like a pretty low workload. If you extend that out to like 6 innings and, 75 pitches, you're probably talking more in the ballpark of a workload of like 5 and 80 because the pitches just aren't all created equal. The deeper you get into a start, the more up downs you have. So that's where I think that like for the Dodgers, I don't think the pitch count is going to matter as much because if Shohei Ohtani gets through 5 innings, then on a game management standpoint, you're in a good spot to move forward with your bullpen and not have anything get messed up about the regular pitching plan. And then at that point, it's like there's no reason to push it any further because Shohei Ohtani is a very, very special case of there's no reason to even say, what if one more sit down and stand up, one more time going out there to warm up from the dugout again could be that little thing that makes him a little bit more sore than he would have been. It's sort of like we talked about with Clayton Kershaw. Like if Ohtani gets through 5 innings on 60 pitches, just be happy with it because maybe that's a start that is not going to take quite as much out of the tank, and there's no reason to try and like get to a certain level of drained energy if you have gotten through the 5 already and can just be happy with that.
Yeah, totally. And I think one other thing I would add to your sort of it could be either pitches or innings. It all factors in like situationally, right? Like a high stress pitch could be your 12th pitch of the game, but if you've already got the bases loaded, then that pitch is going to feel more. Like your 19th pitch is not going to feel the same in every start because if it's the 19th pitch of the first inning or the first pitch of the second inning, those are dramatically different pitches as far as how they impact your body and the fatigue that they are going to cause. And so I guess if I had to choose one, I would almost choose pitch number is going to matter more because the longer you get into an inning, then that pitch count is going to feel heavier than like 5 innings and 40 pitches necessarily would. But I think the point you make, because up downs matter and sitting and then having to come back out. And it's worth pointing out a side note to all of this. They probably don't want relievers having to come in the middle of jams either. So it's sort of like, what's the inning that he could finish? And if they feel like he can finish the 5th, then maybe they give a reliever a fresh inning in the 6th. So it's a good question, Wedgius. And I know we didn't give you a direct answer, but I think it's a nuanced one and also a very good one. J-Rod with the super chat. After attending the card series this week, the bullpen is even worse to watch in person. So apologies that you attended this series. You did get a couple cool giveaways. So you've got that going for you. If you went to all 3 games, you got a Sasaki bobblehead and a Shohei Ohtani World Series ring. But the bullpen was not great. My day games, like it felt like day game Alex Vesia is not night game Alex Vesia. That was my takeaway from yesterday, Bruce.
Or maybe just Wednesday, August 6th, Alex Vesia isn't regular Alex Vesia either, because I don't know exactly what it was. He did not have the swing and miss stuff yesterday, and I think they pushed him a little further than they needed to. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's get to a few more of these 5 packs. Let's talk Max Muncy real quick. The importance that this guy has to the Dodgers lineup. This was a stat I came across, again, from Fabian Ardaya. In the 89 games that Max Muncy has started, the Dodgers are scoring 5.64 runs per game. In the 40 games he has not started, that number drops to 3.95. So basically 1.7 runs per game difference between Max Muncy starting and not starting. Anthony and I sort of spitballed. What exactly is it that Max Muncy does that unlocks the Dodgers offense? Is it a numbers game, having a 5th or 6th hitter that has to be feared in there, crosses over the tipping point? Is it his discipline and the pitches he takes? Like, what would you say if you had to try and pinpoint, Bruce, what makes him so valuable to the Dodger lineup?
I think it's both, because he's just such a good hitter that your numbers are automatically going to look a lot better. But I think the biggest thing is the way that he lengthens the lineup, especially with this current Dodger lineup construction. It's different than what I've been used to in past years, where, the Dodgers usually go out and target the guys that are higher walk rates, get deep in counts consistently. And that seems in the past to have been a focal point of the organization. But now this year, you've got guys like, Andy Paz, Teoscar Hernandez, just free swingers in there that aren't going to see a ton of pitches, aren't going to walk a lot. And I think having Max Muncy in there balances that out to where you get the usual Dodger offense of, a pitcher is going to be at 60 pitches by the third inning. And that's the thing that the Dodgers have been so good at in the past, just draining those pitchers and making every pitch feel like it's, harder. And when Max Muncy isn't in there, you're losing your best guy in that regard. So when he's in the lineup, it just makes everybody else better because of how good his approach is. Yeah,
I love it. All right, we're going to talk number 4 in here just a second. Super interesting story from John Heyman that came out this week, that JD Martinez, former Dodger, made a surprise visit to Florida, to Tampa Bay, to work with Mookie Betts and to sort of help him with his hitting. Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One is the very next series, we've seen Mookie Betts go 4 for 8 in his last 2 games, so that's a thing. But also, it reminds me that back in 2018, it was actually JD Martinez, along with now Dodgers hitting coach Robert Von Scoyac, who were kind of the 2 guys that rebuilt Mookie Betts' swing and turned him into the guy that he was. The JD Martinez was the one who basically brought launch angle to Mookie Betts and changed his career forever. Mookie eventually, at one point, said those 4, Van Scoyac, JD Martinez, the 2 Red Sox hitting coaches at the time, were single-handedly responsible for who I am today. Coming out of the Tampa series, he goes 0 for 4 against St. Louis, maybe a little bit of bad batted ball luck. But the last 2 games, 4 for 8 with 2 extra base hits, 2 doubles, Bruce. So has JD Martinez fixed Mookie Betts?
You hope so, right? We've seen it, not necessarily a fixing before, but we've seen JD Martinez really improve Mookie Betts before. You said it in 2018. It was Martinez that was really a huge player in that, one of the best offensive seasons of all time for Mookie in 2018. And then when the Dodgers signed JD Martinez ahead of 2023, that was the best year Mookie's had in a Dodger uniform. He was excellent that season, and everybody was talking about it the whole year, that JD Martinez's presence, not only like preseason with rebuilding the swing or anything like that, but just his constant presence and reminders and pushing Mookie, that all really helped too. So, it can't hurt to go see JD Martinez, because he's done great things with Mookie a few different times before. And whether it's swing tweaks, whether it's just mental things, I think JD can really help Mookie in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I mean, as you look at these last 2 days, I see a lot more line drives. I mentioned the 2 extra base hits. Now, nobody should overreact to a 4 for 8 over 2 games, but it does feel like there's a little bit something different there. Again, the line drives, the quality of contact are both up. I have to imagine at the very least, mentally, that's got to be relieving to Mookie Betts, that maybe the weight that he feels like he's carrying on his shoulders, I think he was 0 for 24 at one point. Like, at least he's not carrying that anymore.
Yeah, and like you said, we've seen line drives into corners. It's felt like a lot of this year it's been gap to gap and not a lot of using the whole field, and that's been good to see from Mookie Betts. Like you said, it's 2 games, so you can't assume that Mookie is like all the way back now, but anything that'll help him rebound, if it's a different process, if it's a swing change, he just needed something to change, and it seems like that's happened, at least through these last 2 games. He's looked a lot closer to the Mookie Betts that when he steps up to the plate, you can feel good about it and not feel like that you're waiting for the guy on deck.
And we've mentioned on this show, Mookie Betts, we've talked a little bit about how Alex Freeland has incredibly lucky batted ball results so far with the batting average on balls of play of like 470. Mookie Betts is at 240. So he is one of the most unlucky players when it comes to batting average on balls in play. Now, his poor contact quality, his poor speed are going to contribute to that. So it's not all bad luck, but you would have to imagine there's a little bit of positive regression you would have to expect at the very least. And then if there's more line drives, if there's more quality contact, if there's more confidence from Mookie Betts, that's all good news. You and I have not gotten a chance to talk, by the way. Dave Roberts basically telling Dodgers fans who want Mookie Betts moved out of the number 1 or 2 hole to go kick rocks, essentially. He said those requests have fallen on deaf ears, I believe was his language. Any response from you? Like, what goes through your mind when you see Dave Roberts take that hard of a stand against moving Mookie Betts down?
It's what I expected, because Dave Roberts and the Dodgers as a whole, they want to stand behind Mookie Betts, and the optics and the feeling to Mookie, if he hit this stretch or he's been bad, like there's no way around that. But if the immediate response was to say, hey, you're the secondary face of the franchise, you've already won 2 World Series with us, you're not old, but this slump is extended through the whole season and we're going to immediately move you down the lineup, that would not help anything. It would just, create doubts, and whether Mookie said it would say that it would or not, it's just the kind of mental stuff that baseball is such a mental game. And when we're in August, there's no real reason to do that. I do think that if we reach October and we're still where we're at now, Dave Roberts does not have to bind to those comments, because like if Mookie's rolling out there with a 650 OPS in the playoffs, I highly doubt that they're going to be batting him first or second. But at this point in the season, the right thing to do for Roberts is to say, we're sticking by our guy. We believe he's going to figure it out. And that can only help Mookie Betts to hear.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think it speaks volumes to the locker room as well. These are all guys that want their manager to stick up for Mookie Betts. You saw the reaction when he had that first double, and the whole bullpen just like bolts out of their chairs to cheer him on from the gate. I think it's obvious that Dave Roberts has a pulse of the locker room and knows that this is going to be a little victory for the locker room, both for his sort of street cred in that room, but also as a unifying, like, hey, Mookie's our guy, and he's not getting thrown under the bus because the offense is struggling right now. So something to keep an eye on. Again, 4 for 8 in his last 2 games. Does that continue? Because this is a nice story for 2 days, but if we get a week from now and you and I are back here and it's like a 2 for 14 stretch or something in between, this is all going to be forgotten, and the JD Martinez storyline will be long gone. So, okay, let's get to one more topic, and then we'll jump into some questions. A report from Dodgers Daily, shout out to Dodgers Daily for having this, that Justin Dean, outfielder Justin Dean, is expected to be called up to the Dodgers tomorrow. Presumably, they did not have a game today. This came out yesterday, but because there's no game, there's no rush to make a decision. Estuary Ruiz expected to be the player who will be optioned or has been optioned. And then the question is how a 40-man roster spot is going to open. Some speculation, maybe Kike Hernandez to the 60-day IL, potentially, but someone is either going to have to be removed from the roster or placed on the 60-day injured list for Dean to come in. But Bruce, what do we know about Justin Dean and how long he might be in Los Angeles?
Yeah, so the Dodgers have already tipped their hand of how they're going to open up the active roster spot, because Estuary Ruiz already got option to AAA. So this is going to be a straight swap of 2 bench outfielders on the Dodger bench. Estuary Ruiz has been up with the Dodgers for a little bit now, and he's been mostly a pinch runner, has gone on defensively a little bit, but at the plate obviously has not looked great. I don't think you can't expect Justin Dean to come up and be a hitter or be in the starting lineup regularly or anything like that. I think this is the Dodgers looking and saying Justin Dean is a better defender than Estuary Ruiz. He's played almost all of his games in AAA this season in center field and is known to be a good center fielder. He's still got really good speed. It might not be, Estuary Ruiz speed that's like 80 grade across baseball, but Justin Dean is still a really fast player, so you can still use him in that kind of pinch runner role. And then it gives you the flexibility of Dean you can put into the outfield as a defensive replacement in all 3 spots and feel a lot better about it than you did about Estuary Ruiz. So Dean's still not a big stick or anything like that, but he's going to fit the way that they were using Estuary Ruiz. Dean will fit that sort of role a little bit better.
Yeah, last year, by the way, in the minor leagues, 61 stolen bases in 69 attempts for Justin Dean. So he has speed, 25 already. It is worth pointing out that you mentioned he doesn't have a big stick. It's 720 career OPS in the minor leagues. That's not very good. His first year with the Dodgers, though, this year, the batting average is up 30 points. The on-base percentage is up 30 points, and the slug is up 95 points. Now, it's a 796 OPS, which is not good for AAA when you're playing in Oklahoma City and against the teams he has been, right? We've downplayed James Outman's like 950 OPS for the last couple of years, so a 796 is not great, but you make the point. He's probably 80% of the speed that you're getting with Estuary Ruiz, but at least potentially a slightly better bat and a more important glove as far as being able to play center field and being a plus defender out there. So, and good for him, potentially making his major league debut at the age of, what did we say he was? 28. Yeah. So 28 turns 29 in December. So cool story for him if he is able, in fact, to make his major league debut. So, all right, let's get to some questions, folks. We got about half hour, 40 minutes left. I've got some Twitter questions already, but if you want all caps questions, throw that in the chat. We'll get to as many of these as we can. We'll get to a couple super chats from the get-go. Baseball Geek, again, love Bruce's analysis. With the Blue Jays, Angels, and Padres, what record would you expect and be happy if it is? 9 games against those 3 teams, home against the Blue Jays, home against the Padres, on the road against the Angels. In these 9 games, Bruce, what are you expecting?
I'm hoping for a 5-4 or a 6-3. Really, is what you're hoping for. But if they can get through the stretch above 500, because the Blue Jays are playing like crazy good. They just came off a series in Colorado where they were literally setting franchise records. And yes, it's Colorado, but any team coming in with that kind of mojo is going to be feeling good. And you know, the Dodgers can always win more games than that, but anytime you have a stretch like this, the Angels obviously aren't crazy, but there's always something to be said about the freeway rivalry, and make it through this stretch above 500, especially with the Padres as part of it, and you'd be okay with that.
Yeah, realistically, the Padres series is the one that matters the most, right? If you go 3-3 against the Blue Jays and Angels, but then take 2 out of 3 from the Padres, that's a 5-4 record that feels very different. Versus if you go 5-1 against the first 2 and 0-3 against the second, it's the same record, but dramatically different vibes, I think, afterwards. So I'm with you. I think the hope for is 6-3. I think it's realistic. Like, I think the Dodgers should look at every single team they play and say, we can take 2 out of 3 from these guys. If you're breaking it down, you kind of hope you can sweep the Angels. That would be nice in this little gauntlet. And then, you know, maybe you take 2 out of 3 against the Padres and 1-2 against the Blue Jays, and that adds up to 6-3. So 6-3, I'll make that my prediction. Maybe they lose 2 out of 3 to the Blue Jays, sweep the Angels, and take 2 out of 3 from the Padres. So we appreciate the super chat. There's a guess for you. Carlos says, Jeff, do you think the 2 series versus the Pods coming up is make or break to win the division? I do not. I think we are still way far away from when the division will be decided. But I do think these are going to be fun. And I've started to think, Bruce, that I wonder if this team just needs a little bit of a spark. You know, last time they played the Padres, of course, the bench is clear. There's a little bit of bad blood. I just almost wonder if this team needs to get woken up. And if a Padres series, doesn't even have to be benches clearing, doesn't have to be a hit by pitch, but just the vibes and the energy around a Padres series, I wonder if that's what this group needs to kind of flip the switch a little bit and say, all right, it's now until November 1st, pedal to the metal.
I totally agree with you, because through a lot of this stretch where they have not been playing Dodger baseball, it's felt like that they're, you know, at times going through the motions. It hasn't felt like there's a sense of urgency like we're used to. There's little mistakes being made and things that are just uncharacteristic. And if there's one kind of series that can wake that up, it's the Padres, because we already know the bad blood that there is between the two teams, the way that it went last time. Now I think there's an even more added element to this with everything the Padres just did at the trade deadline, and they're going to be trying to prove we're the better team now. We should be the team to beat in all of baseball after the ads that we made. So even putting aside the close division race, there's that element. There's the Dodgers trying to prove that, hey, I know that we've been struggling lately, but we're still big brother here. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and it hopefully will need to bring out the best in the Dodgers, because I don't know what else could.
Yeah. D-Nation Life. Hey, guys, love the show. Sending money to support. Hope you all have a great night. We appreciate it, D-Nation. Thanks for hopping in. Thanks for the super chat as well. Thanks to the 1,300 people in here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also, by the way, we are like 30 people away from 90,000 subscribers. So maybe we get that tonight. Somebody's got a burner YouTube account that they can log into and give us a subscription. Log into your mom's account, whatever you got to do. All right, let's get to 90,000 tonight. But thank you to everybody who's hopping in and joining us. All right, let's get to some of these questions. And we've got a bunch. We've got some from Twitter as well. So I'm going to start over there. A couple. These are from, we got 2 similar ones from, let's see, AMG said, why does it feel like everyone's acting like the sky is falling when we are in a better situation than last year? At this time last year, we had the same record and we're about to lose Ryan, Glasnow, and Stone. This year, we are getting healthy instead of falling apart. I'm optimistic. SCTX Weather says, so we were 66-49 this time last year. We took off around this time. Seeing the similarities from last year, do you get this feeling this team is on the edge of a breakout, or are there missing components? It is worth pointing out, this team literally has the same record as the team that won the World Series last year on this date. Both were 66-49. This year, the Dodgers have a 2-game lead in the division. Last year, it was 3. On August 8th, it was 2.5. So it's basically the exact same situation, Bruce, that this team was in last year. How much confidence do you have that this group, given all that we've experienced over the last couple of months, has the type of run in them to at least comfortably pull away over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I think they're absolutely fully capable of it, because when you look at the roster where it was at last year, as one of those questions mentioned with the injury questions, I think that the roster on paper looks better right now than it did at this point last year. They're getting healthy, which is a huge thing. Obviously, that starting rotation, if everybody stays healthy, is like one of the best ever assembled. And that's the big thing that stands out of why this team can go on a huge run at any point, because there's not a single turn through the rotation that isn't a game where you go out and feel like you've got the best chance to win. So that's huge. The thing that I'll say about this team, there's been some aspects over this stretch that have absolutely concerned me, of little things not being done right. I think about that Brewers series coming out of the All-Star break in LA, that it felt like the Dodgers just got outplayed on many, many levels. The Brewers were the better baseball team that series. And I've been seeing things being done like that are uncharacteristic to the Dodgers. So those things need to get figured out, but the talent is absolutely there. And if they can get back to playing the Dodger brand of baseball, then this team will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, Kimmy also had a question, said, at this point, do you think we are just an average team, win one, lose one, can't generate enough, can't generate 3 wins in a row anymore? We do not feel that way about this team. I think this team is going to be very good. And just like last year, I think at some point we will look back and say, oh man, remember when we were panicked? Doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series. And I think the Padres are very good. So I'm not even saying the Dodgers are going to run away with this division, but I think they're going to play very good baseball down the stretch and put themselves in a position where they have a chance to go ahead and repeat. So Kevin asked, do you think this team got complacent with the World Series, with the one World Series? One of my favorite podcast guys, Ryan Russillo, he always talks about, like, you can't fake desperation. You can't fake it. And so there is something that, because you have a World Series ring from last year, you can't possibly be as desperate for it as the Padres are, or as insert another team here. So what do you make about that, Bruce? Do you think that's a problem that this team is currently battling with?
Yeah, it's hard to measure, because like you said, you can't fake desperation. You can't go out there and have the same drive to say, we need to bring a World Series parade to the streets of LA because we didn't get one in 2020. That doesn't exist anymore, and it can't, because they just got that parade. So I think that could be an explanation for where some of these little mistakes and things have been made over this couple of month stretch here. Is they're just, it's hard to find a way to fill in that gap. And I think they're still searching for it a little bit. But I think that if there's any group that can find that drive and find that sort of, fake desperation or drive again, then I think that's this team.
All right, let's get to a couple more. I love this from the great username, Antonio Osuna fan, had a question for us. So shout out to Antonio Osuna. You probably never saw Antonio Osuna pitch, did you, Bruce?
No.
God, that's a shame. That guy was awesome. Anyways, random. Any updates on River Ryan's recovery and or timeline? Thank you so much. My understanding is that there is no update and that he is not expected back at any point this season. So have you heard anything different on that front, Bruce?
I haven't heard anything at all about River Ryan. I know that there was a time, I don't remember if it was in spring training, but I remember seeing something that they were hoping for late 2025 because he had the surgery in August of last year, and you could put 13 months and say, you could be pitching again, but I would not be counting on River Ryan to be back until we hear an update that says that that's within the realm of possibility. Even someone like Kyle Hurt, we've already seen is throwing, and there's been chatter with River Ryan. It's just been dead air. So until there's something mentioned, I'm not going to count on him being back this year. Yeah,
totally. And as it stands now, the Dodgers aren't as desperate for pitching as maybe they were a year ago. And with a guy who has as high of an upside as River Ryan, you don't rush him to potentially be like a reliever in September at the end of a year. You say, hey, get a full off season and be healthy starting in October, and then we'll go from there. A couple more from Twitter. Brandon asks, can someone ask Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts why Ryan Ward won't get a shot? If they don't value him, then release him. The second part, sadly, the way the system is set up, there is literally no incentive for them to just release him. While it would benefit him individually as a player, it would potentially hurt them by helping somebody else in baseball. And so that's just the unfair nature of the system. We've talked briefly about this, but I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. He's been like the player of the month multiple times down in AAA. So what would you tell someone who's curious as to why Ryan Ward doesn't get called up in place of Justin Dean or Esteury Ruiz or fill in the blank?
Yeah, the big thing is what Ward brings to the table in terms of tools. He doesn't have the defense. He doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the stuff that you can put on the bench and feel like that can still contribute. Ryan Ward's the kind of player that needs to be in the lineup, at least in a platoon against right-handed pitchers or really every day to make sense, because it's his bat that is the thing that makes him a good player. Nothing else really stands out. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the Dodger roster. They don't need an everyday bat right now. I think that he stays in the organization, and the only path that he really has to the big leagues is if an injury happened, like let's say Michael Conforto goes down and they just say, we absolutely need somebody to come in and play that field, and they give him a chance. He's played a good amount of first base in AAA this year, but I don't think that he's the next guy on the depth chart there, because he also is, I believe, 5'10", so he's not huge at first base. He's not a Freddie Freeman target. So it's just unfortunate. Like you said, it's the nature of the game. He's done everything to earn a chance in the big leagues, but it hasn't fit with the Dodgers for a while now. He's been in AAA for a couple of years, and there hasn't been a single point where his profile fits what the Dodgers need. And there hasn't been a point where another team really needs him either, because he was up for grabs in the Rule 5 draft last offseason and went through untaken. Any team could have got him for free as long as they kept him on the big league roster, and they didn't take that chance. If he goes in unprotected again this offseason, I would assume, and I hope for his sake, that he would get taken again. But for now, he's just insurance for if the Dodgers need a left-handed bat at some point down the stretch past the trade deadline where they can't go out and get anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the Rule 5 thing, because that's what I was going to suggest. Did the Dodgers still have team control of him beyond this past year? I'd seen somebody suggest that maybe he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. Do you know how many years of team control he has left?
I don't off the top of my head. I would assume he's getting close to the minor league free agency tally, because he's getting up there. I think he's 27, 28 now. And once you're getting into that kind of age range in the minor leagues, then yeah, you're getting close to where players can elect free agency. And I would assume if he has that choice, then that would be something that he'd take. So like I said, I don't know off the top of my head, but that might be this offseason. That would sort of align with the timeline.
Yeah. I was going to try and find it, but I don't have it in front of me. So apologies.
Either way, I don't think he's going to be in the organization again next year, whether it's Rule 5 draft, whether he opts out, whether he gets traded somewhere. Like, I don't think that he'll want to be, and I don't think the Dodgers will do that to him again. You know, you just kind of hope for the guy, and the way the Dodgers usually treat players, that's not really the way that it goes usually.
Yeah, fair. Okay, a couple more over from Twitter. We'll make these quick. Church22, what outfield prospect in the system do you think has the best major league career?
Jose De
Paula, Hope, Sirota, Quintero. Who'd you say?
Jose De Paula.
Okay, there you go. Matthew asks, Bruce, when I had Lance Brozdowski on, he mentioned he thinks Zaire Hope may not have much room for growth because his body is fully developed. Do you agree with that assessment?
The good thing with Hope, he is very filled out for his age, which is not great, because like when you talk about De Paula, there's like so much projection to have. Hope is pretty filled out already, but the physical tools are really good already. So it's not like that he's at a below average level and needing to grow from there. He's already like very raw strength, and all that kind of stuff is already in a plus place. So like there isn't projection like you have with De Paula, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you also don't need to worry about whether he gets to the peak or not. If he's already there, he's hitting the ball hard, and you just need to worry about the other things. And if everything else falls into place, then the physical projection won't be a problem.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's get to some more questions here. Cole wants to know, how is Kendall George's defense?
It's been up and down. It's been a steady improvement since he got into the system, because it's sort of similar to what we've talked about with Esteury Ruiz, where the speed is like incredible, but the outfield reads aren't always the best. George has been improving, so I don't think that he is like an Esteury Ruiz level glove. I think in the end, Kendall George will be able to play at least average center field, hopefully above average, just because of how bloody fast that he is. And Kendall George, 65 stolen bases this year, he's already surpassed. So like the speed is crazy. You really don't need the greatest reads in the world to be a great outfielder with that kind of speed. So Kendall George is a guy that I bank on to be able to play center field.
Vivian wants to know, do you think Shohei tries to catch the next pop-up himself? I think it's a safe bet. I think he's going to be less less forgiving on those moving forward. TQT asks, we give rushing a pass for not producing due to inconsistent at bats. Excuse me, but a 40% strikeout rate is absolutely unacceptable. How surprised are you with his offensive ineptitude?
These are strong words in here. I wouldn't call anything Dalton Rushing's done unacceptable, nor would I call it ineptitude. It's been a progressive adjustment for sure, and it hasn't been an immediate, light the world on fire, but that's not really a surprise. It's hard for a rookie to come in and barely play, and he's also been so focused on what he's doing defensively, which has all been going really, really well. And that's the main thing that matters for a backup catcher. When you're getting spot starts and not playing all the time. What you do on offense is, good offensive production is always better. But really what matters the most is being able to go in and play a good catcher where it's not the pitching staff having to go from a great starting catcher to all of a sudden somebody that's hard to work with. And Dalton Rushing has been across the board good on defense, and there hasn't been a tough adjustment for the pitchers going from Smith to Rushing. That's the thing that matters the most. And Dalton Rushing's too talented of a hitter to stay at a 40% strikeout rate. So I'm not worried about that at all.
Okay, there you go. Shelly says, by the way, this super chat is to give good winning vibes to the Dodgers and because she loves the show. So Shelly, thank you so much. We appreciate you. GI says, have you ever seen a 40-man roster so clogged with pitchers? It includes 9 guys on the 60-day. It is insane that basically every position player on the 40-man roster was at the major league level at one point, which is nuts.
Yeah, the Dodgers pretty much have a 50-man roster right now, and it makes it a nightmare once you get to the offseason because those guys can't stay on the 60-day injured list throughout the offseason. So as soon as we reach, November, December, it's going to be a lot of moves that have to be made because it is absolutely stacked with injured pitchers, and that it's not like it's new for the Dodgers. This is how it's been the last few years, but it's in a particularly crazy place right now.
Noisy Ninja says, don't know if you've talked about this in the past. We have not. But what do you think about Mason Miller saying that one of the first things the Padres told him was, quote, we hate the Dodgers?
It tracks with everything that most Dodger fans think about the Padres, right? The little brother mindset, the rent-free kind of thinking. Yep. I didn't see the exact quote, so I would be interested to know how, supremely in context this was, or I bet Mason Miller, when this immediately went viral, was thinking what did I set off? But when you see this quote, it certainly makes you laugh.
Yeah, it checks. It's the Dodgers live so rent-free in their head. It is absolutely insane. There was a great meme that I'll just say of 2 guys standing in a urinal, and it perfectly encapsulates the life of a Dodgers fan and a Padres fan. I'll just leave it at that. You don't want me to explain it. Okay. Let's see some other ones here. Jason says, Jeff, is the hat you're wearing your favorite? Jason sent me this hat. So it's in the rotation, as you've seen. Jason, it's in the 4-man rotation. But my favorite hat, which sadly I bought the wrong size of, is right back here. That's the 2020 World Series champions hat. So that's number 1 because it was the first World Series. I've got 2024 in a size that I can actually wear. So that would be number 2. So this is top 5, we'll say, Jason. All right, top 5. How about that? And look, there's lots of hats behind me. So we top 5's not a bad place to be. TN says, who's pitching in the Blue Jays series? I can help you with that. We got the old guys on Friday, Kershaw versus Scherzer on Friday, Snell versus Bassett on Saturday, and Yamamoto versus Lauer on Sunday. Those are projected over on ESPN. So Kershaw, Snell, and Yamamoto, Scherzer, Bassett, and Lauer. Look, anytime the Dodgers, you list off who's pitching for the Dodgers, you're probably going to feel better about the 3 guys the Dodgers throw out than the other team, just the state of the rotations right now. But look, when you can throw Snell and Yamamoto on Saturday and Sunday on the back of Kershaw, who's pitched very, very well of late, you feel pretty good about things, Bruce.
Yeah, that certainly is advantage Dodgers in all 3 games, I would say. But I will give credit to that Blue Jays rotation. Guys like Chris Bassett's been solid for many, many years now. Max Scherzer is always going to be competitive. And then Eric Lauer has quietly been a very solid starting pitcher over these last few months. So while the Dodgers have the advantage, it's not like that those are nobodies over on the Jays side either.
Yeah, there you go. GI wants to know thoughts on Tibbs. Nice to pick up a 2024 first-round pick for Dustin May and another guy, by the way. First home run that he hit for the Dodgers the other day. And was the stat right that no, he had 2 home runs, which was more than he had hit in the entire month that he was a part of the Red Sox organization. Is that right?
Yeah, he was scuffling a bit when he got to Portland, the AA affiliate of the Red Sox. And yesterday for Tulsa, he hit 2 home runs, got on base all 6 times. So it was a storybook kind of MLB The Show rookie mode, road to the show game for James Tibbs in Tulsa yesterday. So he's looked good so far. I was watching back yesterday our trade deadline marathon stream, and when Justin, future Dodgers, had just come on, and when you read out the reaction, we were both, oh wow, because did not expect Dustin May to net a prospect as good as James Tibbs. It's nice to know that 13th overall pick of the Giants, and now he's looking good in a Dodger uniform. I love it. So it was a great return, and I think Tibbs could be a really nice player.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you dug in at all, by the way, on the other guy that came over in that trade? Because I think Justin said he's got him inside the top 30 Dodgers organizational list.
Yeah. Tibbs is near the top because I see James Tibbs as like borderline top 100. If he has a really good finish to the year, he could be in that conversation. And Zach Earhart isn't quite that high, but he's in the top 30 of the organization for sure. So these are two really, really solid players. Earhart is a little bit more athletic than Tibbs, so it's a little bit more of a speed defense kind of profile. Tibbs has the better bat, but they're both good outfielder prospects, and both guys that if they would have just got Earhart in a vacuum, I would have been like, that's a good return for Dustin May. And they got them both. So great trade.
Yeah. And by the way, small tease, we tentatively have planned me, Justin Lorber, and Bruce show for the end of next week. Justin has released his top prospects, updated sort of midseason rankings. Bruce is hoping to in the next week. And so the goal is to have those two guys, who I would say are the best two Dodgers specific prospect guys. We're going to get all three of us on the show. I'm going to ask stupid questions about why he's 7th on one list and 4th on the other, and we'll see what happens. So stay tuned next week for that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, TN wants to know thoughts on Roki Sasaki fastball velocity. Not sure if you saw this quote, but he says he feels like he's going to be able to get back to his old velocity. He's throwing a 2-seamer. Some encouraging quotes from Dave Roberts and Roki Sasaki, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah, if there's any reason to believe that he can get back to his peak fastball velocity, that's the greatest news in the world, because his fastball at the beginning of the season, when it was in the 93, 95 range, was legitimately one of the worst pitches in baseball. The movement profile did not translate well to the MLB ball, and then when he lost the velocity, it was an absolute dead zone fastball. So velocity helps make up for that. He'll still need the metrics to get back to a better place than they were, but velocity is kind of the thing that, like, if you're throwing hard, then those other issues are much less prevalent. So if he can get back to, high 90s, grab some triple digits, then he immediately becomes a much easier guy to send to the mound and feel good about.
Kevin wants to know, do you think we win another World Series with Shohei? I'm not saying this year, but in the near future. That's an easy yes for me. Again, I'm not saying it's easy to win the World Series, but they're the World Series favorites right now. They will likely be the World Series favorites for the next couple of years. And so at some point, I think they fall into one over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And I think the real question is, do you think that they're going to win multiple World Series through the rest of the Ohtani era? If they can go, 3 for 10 in the 10 years, it's so hard to do that in baseball, or even more than 3. So hard, and statistically practically impossible. But I don't think it is impossible. That's how good Ohtani is. That's how good the organization is, and will continue to be.
Yeah, and we said this the other night. If I don't think nobody on here is saying Mookie Betts is cooked and is forever going to be bad. And yet, even if he were, he's already brought 2 World Series titles to Los Angeles, so the contract was worth it. So we'll never have to live with, overpaid, overrated, yada yada. 2 World Series title, good enough for me. A couple rapid fire here. Jamie wants to know, do you think the Roberts will ride with Conforto through the playoffs?
Yes, I do. I think he's looked a lot better lately, and if he's hitting, then he's going to stay in the lineup.
It's worth pointing out, everybody knows I'm the Conforto guy. We talk about Max Muncy and how important Max Muncy is because of the way he approaches an at-bat. This is going to sound crazy from the outside, but I think if you watch games, this will make sense. Conforto's probably as close as the Dodgers have. Maybe Alex Call, I mean, he kind of has that profile, but like, as far as taking pitches, working at bats, and going deep, like, I'm not saying Conforto gets the results once he gets deep into the count, but it feels like he sees more pitches than just about anybody else in the Dodgers lineup. So I think there's some value from an at-bat quality perspective as well. Speaking of, Alia wants to know, do you think they give Alex Call a runway at all?
I don't think it's going to be a huge runway. It's going to be more than like we're talking about right now. I think when you look at the outfield, there's the like Esteury Ruiz just got sent down. Justin Dean will fill that role of like flat out depth outfielder who really rarely gets a start. Alex Call will get starts, especially against left-handed pitching, but I don't think he's going to get everyday runway unless injuries happen.
Yeah, I would honestly expect him to be the everyday guy against left-handed pitching in a platoon with Conforto, as well as a defensive replacement in like the 6th or 7th inning of most games that Conforto is starting. So I think he's going to play a bunch. Whether that equates to a lot of at-bats remains to be seen. Ollie also asking, will the Dodgers have more collabs with the Galaxy or LAFC with their new acquisition? LAFC just signed Heung-min Son, who, for those that are soccer people, was one of the better players in the world. He's South Korean. He played for Tottenham. And so I imagine that him coming to LA, you will see him at Dodger Stadium at some point. That's a mortal luck that famous South Korean player who, again, coming from a country that loves baseball, even though he's an incredible soccer player, I imagine he at least is a fan of baseball in general. Maybe that's a gross stereotype and overgeneralization, but it's like, is an American, probably likes football. Maybe that's crazy. But yes, I would be surprised if those two are not in the same realm at some point. Okay, let's get to some fun questions and we'll be out of here. David asks, I asked you guys on Twitter X if you liked, I believe it's pronounced tripe. I tried to Google it. It said tripe. So except for Anthony, it was a firm no. Bruce, do you have any opinion on tripe?
I don't know about the pronunciation because I don't know what that is. So
it's like stomach lining, basically. The stomach of a cow, and then it's cooked as a meat. So I'm going to guess that's a no for you.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, my response was the old American Idol Randy Jackson gif, which was like, that's going to be a no for me, dog. So Anthony's in though. So there you go. Hawaiian Kira wants to know popcorn, regular or kettle, and then other than butter, which toppings or additions. So we'll start butter popcorn or kettle popcorn if you had to choose.
I'll take a kettle, and I like a caramel kettle corn. That's my go-to.
Movie theater butter is number one ranking of all popcorns for me. I love kettle corn. Like, I think average kettle corn is way better than average butter popcorn, but elite butter popcorn straight from the movie theater is that. And Kevin, by the way, Aaron said, just got back from the movies. What is your go-to movie theater combo?
See, I'm not a person who buys food at the movie theater very much because it's the same thing with going to Dodger Stadium. It's just too expensive and I'm too cheap for that. So I'll usually, whatever my, this is illegal to say out loud, but whatever my current preferred candy, I'll stuff it in my pocket and that'll get me through. Okay.
Do you want to share what your preferred candy is at the moment?
I kind of go all over the place. The last couple times I've gone to the movies, I've brought some high chews.
Okay, there you go. I think movie theater prices are insane. I will pay for the popcorn because it's elite, but like $8 for a box of Skittles or something like that is a hard pass for me. So give me just the biggest size popcorn, refillable, please. Yes, I will try not to eat the entire thing myself. I now have a family of 5, so you just get the big one. You get some extra trays, you throw it down there, and then Dad just smashes it all in his face and then fills up the bag on the way out. So that's what I got. Matty Man says you don't like paying $10 for Junior Mints. I wouldn't pay 13 cents for Junior Mints is my answer, which is apparently a hot take. I love mint chocolate chip. Mint flavored candy, Bruce, I'm out on. It's for breath. It's for gum. Don't try and feed me it in candy. That's my take on mint.
The mint works for ice cream, but I agree with you that I don't see it for chewable candies because it feels like you're eating a stick of gum.
Dodger Blue account says you have to get an icy as well, and then said icy over Slurpee. Hot take here for you. Probably couldn't tell the difference. If you threw an icy and a Slurpee in front of me, not sure I'd be able to tell the difference. I take it you disagree.
I think that I could tell the icy if you give me like the blue flavor because I've had that enough in my life that I'd be able to distinguish it. But I'm not totally off the tracks with you because I don't have either of them too often. But I do agree that icies are better than Slurpees.
All I know about both is there need to be at least 2 flavors involved for this to be an elite. Like, give me the cherry and the Coke, give me the red and the blue, whatever I've got to do. But if I'm ever stuck with just one flavor, I feel like I'm getting a solid B version of it. So this might be a dumb question, but like, where do ices rank compared to milkshakes, root beer floats, sort of in the dessert drink beverage category? Icy / Slurpee compared to root beer floats and milkshakes?
To be honest, I think that ices are last because I think that milkshakes are number 1, root beer floats are number 2, and ices are last because ultimately with an icy, it feels like you're drinking like foam and it's not as like some substantive. Milkshakes are always number 1 for me. I love milkshakes, and then root beer floats are a nice little switch up from the milkshake that still is an ice cream product.
Yeah, there's a reason one of these things cost 79 cents for like a large, and the other two are like, if you find one for under $5, congratulations. But yeah, I'm with you. I love a good root beer float, but I'd probably go milkshake 1, root beer float slightly behind, and then love icy / Slurpee, but distant third for me. So there you go. People I'm sure are going to love that. Somebody said, have you ever had an affogato? It's like a espresso poured over vanilla ice cream.
No, I'm not a huge coffee guy, so no, I have not.
Okay, Hawaiian Kier wants to know, what's your favorite ice cream, by the way?
I'm a strawberry guy. I'm kind of basic, but I like going for strawberry. It's probably because a lot of the time I have ice cream, I have it in like milkshake form, and so usually the strawberry milkshake is always my go-to. And like if I'm in a like ice cream shop and there's a little bit more variety, then I'm not someone who's like, I'm just going to stick to the traditionals, and I like to expand from there. But when I think like favorite ice cream, I think strawberry.
Crazy. Yeah, chocolate milkshakes all day for me. I don't mess with vanilla or strawberry, so it's just chocolate, but I'm a mint chocolate chip ice cream guy. So, and then there's malts, which again, I know those are slightly different than shakes, but it's like the icy slushy thing for me. It's like I don't have a distinguished enough palate over here to be able to give you. I know there's malt powder and it's different, and I don't know. It all tastes the same to me.
I'm a big malt person. If I have the choice between malt or shake, I'll absolutely be able to tell the difference, because I love my shakes. It's any kind of like milkshake kind of thing. I like it thick. I don't like when it's all like runny. And so malts have that sort of like thickness and additional taste to it. My favorite thing is like the milkshake / malt that you'll get in like a diner, and it comes in the little like tin canister thing with that's my favorite. And that's usually comes with a malt.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, see, I need to be able to drink it. Like if I can't get it through a straw, I'm less interested. I'm like, in and out. Can we just melt this like for 15 extra seconds so that by the time you hand it to me, it's actually edible with something other than a spoon? So anyways, all right. Dylan Plays Hockey has a baseball question. We'll get out of here on this. Who wins the series, Dodgers or Blue Jays?
Dodgers. I'm going with LA. They've got the pitching advantage in all three. They're playing at home, and regardless of what Toronto just did in Colorado, I think the Dodgers win 2 of 3.
Okay, and I said earlier, I think the Blue Jays win 2 out of 3, but then the Dodgers take 5 of their next 6 against the Angels and Padres. So we'll stick with that. Folks, that's going to do it for us tonight on a Thursday night. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Sunday night. I am off. Anthony Witrato will be here. Probably Matthew Moreno, Blake Williams, somebody filling in for me. And then Anthony and I will be back next Tuesday. Bruce and I will be back next Thursday. We got a couple cool interviews lined up for next week. I promoted one and then it fell through. So I'm going to not promote them anymore because sometimes the follow through doesn't always happen. So I'm excited about them. Hopefully we get a chance to post them at some point next week. Again, if you are new here, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, join the Dodger Blue 1958 family. You can find us Dodger Blue 1958 on Twitter, on Instagram. You can find the DodgerHeads podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, the Dodger Blue app as well. If you have not downloaded that, the best place to get all of the DodgerBlue.com articles, news, updates, as well as our video, all in one place. So enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, still champs.